Hello everyone, welcome back to SBR Pythons. Today we've got a cool little video. We're just going to talk about the Scaleless. It's a little bit of a controversial topic, shall we say. Not everyone wants to work with it, but I think it's fascinating to look at and to hold. So I'm going to do a video on it. Initially I was going to do this as a project for the future. However, I've decided that I'm going to highlight animals today that are already done and not animals that I think I want to have done. So therefore I thought it was sort of not applicable to the projects for the future. I could potentially still do it in that series if you guys want me to, talking about the animals that I think are going to look good, or sorry, the genes that I think are going to look good in Scaleless. You'll have to let me know, but as I say, today we're just going to focus on the gene itself, or it's not really a gene, it's the super form of a gene, which is either the microscale or the Scaleless head. So yeah, you know, that's where I should start really. So what is the Scaleless? It's a super microscale or a super Scaleless head. So there's sort of two different lines. One of them is the super Scaleless head. That is what the likes of JB at Morph City Reptiles and Kevin Barnett at Boas to Bulls. They're sort of working with the Scaleless head. And then you've got the likes of Nerd over in America and D and Joe here in the UK working with the microscale and the super microscale to create their Scaleless heads. So some of the people that have been creating them recently, obviously JB has created the first Scaleless in the UK. He created the super Scaleless from the super Scaleless head. And then you've got the likes of D and Joe. I know they did it recently as well, and more recently Ashley did it last week. I think she produced on New Year's Day. She hatched out 3 Scaleless super microscale, which is, you know, a phenomenal New Year's present. Well done, Ashley. And as I said, I think they look fantastic. So firstly, I want to talk a little bit about the myths of Scaleless, and that's the feeding, the shedding, and the adulthood. So firstly, I want to talk about adulthood. And the myth is that, do they reach adulthood? And I think this myth comes from the fact that Brian Barczyk produced it, the first one from a super Scaleless head, and I don't think he's reached adulthood. So that's where the myth sort of comes from. This, I know for a fact, has, you know, been disproved. The likes of Constriction Addiction over in America is the first one that comes to my mind. You know, I've seen on his Instagram super Scaleless as adults. I'm going to just keep calling them Scaleless from now on. They're not super Scaleless, they're just Scaleless. They're a super form. I think I've relayed that enough to you now though. But yeah, straight away, Constriction Addiction comes to head. He's got, you know, adults. And I know that other people in America, for example, have got, you know, 500, 600, 700 gram males. You know, so they clearly do make adulthood. And regarding to the shedding, I'll flash up an image now from JB, who's kindly sent me over some images for today's video, of one that's starting to shed. But also JB has taken full sheds from his Scaleless animals to Doncaster, because people always make a joke that they look a little bit rude. If you've seen them, you know what I'm talking about. So they definitely do shed out in whole. It's just a case of the husbandry, same as the normal Scaleless, non-Scaleless animals, sorry. It's just a case of how you husbandry them, how you look after them. The only thing with the shedding is that they do shed more often. I think Jay said when his hatched out, they were shedding sort of once a week, which is crazy. And then regarding the feeding, the final myth would be that because they haven't got the heat pits, can they can they detect the heat coming from the animal, sorry, and can they therefore feed? Well, again, Jay sent me over some images of his feeding, and as you can see, they've got a perfect coil and everything, so they clearly do feed. And they have to feed, obviously, or else they wouldn't sort of make that 500, 600, 700 gram and beyond mark that I talked about in the adulthood myth section. So yeah, that's just a little bit of an overview on Scaleless. So first of all, I want to talk about what has been done already. So I'll flash up some of the codoms for this section. So firstly, I want to talk about the Super Fire Scaleless from Kev Barnett, from Boas to Bulls or Boas with Bulls, I can't remember which one it is. But this year he did the Super Fire Scaleless. I find this animal absolutely fascinating. White snakes in sort of a whole white snake in itself is truly pleasing on the eye. And then when you take those scales away, it's even more crazy. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just visually appealing. One thing I did notice about this is the Super Fire trait obviously has the sort of yellow blotches down the animal. And from the Scaleless, it seems like the yellow's been taken out. Now this sort of makes me wonder what would happen if you put albino into it and things like that. That's something I could highlight on these projects for the future series if you wanted me to do, as I say. So the next one I want to talk about is the GHI Lesser Scaleless. This is probably my favourite Scaleless combination out there right now, and I'll flash up a picture now. I can't remember who made this, it's not coming to my head right now, but it's on Morph Market. So if it was you, or you know, someone's watching this that knows the creator, you know, I give you full credit. I'll make sure to find your link and put it in the description. This is my favorite. You know, it's sort of almost looks a little bit axanthic, sorry, how the sort of pattern stays from the GHI, but then you've sort of got that brightening effect from the lesser. It's truly incredible. So the final one I want to talk about is the the Scaleless Spider Enchi, I believe it is, the Super Microscale from D and Joe that they've produced. I'm not a big fan of the Spider, as you know. It doesn't work in Pi, and that's why I don't like it in terms of the gene. There's nothing wrong with it visually, and that's why I think this is one of the better ones out there right now, because you can clearly see that spider pattern has definitely stayed in the animal, even through the sort of removal of scales. It looks phenomenal. You've got that Enchi influence that's still managing to come through. Enchi is so fantastic in everything. I don't know whether the video is coming out before or after this, but I did a video talking about what I think worked in Pied, and I mentioned Enchi there. For me, Enchi is one of those got-to-have genes. It's truly phenomenal how it works and interacts with other genes, recessive and codom, and in this case, super. It's truly incredible. In fact, I've got the Super Enchi Fire Het Pied, who is probably in the top, well, you know, I've only got 5 males, but he's easily in my top 3, just because of how powerful that Enchi is, and having a super form, yeah, incredible. And that's obviously, as I say, from D and Joe, and I, you know, once again, full credit to them for producing the Super Microscale. I know they're really passionate about that project, so I wish you all the luck with it, sort of going forward. And yeah, so just, you know, talking about a little bit about the codoms. And then finally, I need to talk about the Pied Scaleless. Of course, I have to talk about the Pied Scaleless. So I've thankfully got permission from Bailey and Bailey Reptiles. If you haven't checked them out, go and check them out. They work with some incredible animals, not just the Pied or the Scaleless. But this is the one that I want to highlight sort of specifically. Pied and Scaleless, in my opinion, work fantastic. Eventually, I want to get into it. I looked for a Scaleless head Het Pied or something like that this year, but I couldn't get one sort of in my price range at the time. As I say, I've got other things going on in life, and it just wasn't sort of something that was available to me at the time. But yeah, anyway, I'll stop blabbing and I'll flash up the image now. You can see this is from one clutch. You've got the 2 Scalelesses on either side, and obviously in the middle is that Scaleless Pied. Just take a minute to look at it. It's incredible. It keeps that Pied pattern fantastic. You know, it doesn't wash it out or wipe it out like, you know, it might be suspected. The only difference between a Pied and a Scaleless Pied, apart from the non-scales obviously, is it makes those colours more rich and orange. From the Scaleless sort of taking that, I don't know how you'd call it, sort of washing that pattern away, or sorry, washing the colour away. It looks incredible. Blackburn Exotics, it's just come into my head who created that GHI lesser Scaleless. There you go. I knew it would come back eventually. But yeah, I truly love the Scaleless, and as I say, I probably will get into it at some point, probably down the Scaleless head route. Just personal preference, you know, that's where the original Scaleless came from Brian Barczyk. If you don't know Brian Barczyk, you know what you're doing. He's probably the most influential reptile keeper / ball python breeder out there, so you know, definitely go and check him out, Snake Bites TV or Brian Barczyk on YouTube. I don't want to promote him, you know, he's a little bit of a controversial figure, but you know, that's where the original Scaleless came from. And so that's why I think that, you know, Scaleless head is probably the line I would go down, just because it's the original line. And you know, I've seen in person, as I flash up a picture now, I've seen in person the super form of that, the Scaleless from JB at Doncaster, and it's incredible. And just a little bit of insight for those of you that are wondering what a Scaleless feels like. How do I describe it honestly? Richard Barrow at Predator BP probably did a better video on it, talking about it when he went and visited JB, Morph City Reptiles, sorry, quite a while ago. But it's sort of like this rubbery context, I would say. It's kind of one of those situations that I was in. It just happened. So I was at the show, I can't remember which one it was. It must have been either April or June. I think it might have been June actually. And I just said to Jay, I went up to him and approached him in the show. It's the first time I spoke to Jay. And I just said to him, you know, I see you've got the animal. If I left today without asking, I would kick myself. So I had to go over and ask Jay if I could sort of hold it, feel it. And wow, seriously, Jay, I thank you so much for letting me do it. Sort of, as I say, it's an incredible tick off the bucket list sort of achievement for me. Obviously, it's going to be more and more common as the years go on, and hopefully, as I say, I'll get to work with it eventually. I'm really excited to see what can be done with it. You know, For me, the first that comes into mind, I kind of want to mention the projects for the future. What I think would work kind of has to be the clown pied. Wow, you know, I just imagine a scaleless clown pied. They're so orange already, and then you bring in the scaleless, which removes sort of the color and makes it sort of that little bit orangey. I think that would be incredible. But anyway, let's not talk about that. But yeah, that was just a little bit sort of talking about the scaleless and what I think of it. As I say, I think it's, you know, why would you not work with the gel if you got the option? But again, I see this sort of counter argument in that snakes are designed to have scales, and so therefore there's a reason they've got the scales. So why would you want to take them away? I completely understand that. If that's you, you know, nothing against you for thinking that. I just personally think it looks incredible. So there we go, guys. That was just a little video talking about the scaleless, my opinion on it, a little bit of an oversight into it, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, leave a like, leave a subscription so you can continue to see what we post here on the channel. Turn the bell on, but as I say, it's every Sunday. And yeah, leave a comment, as I say, just talking about whether you would work with the Superform of Scaleless head or Microscale, and also which one would you work with? Would it be the Microscale or would it be the Scaleless head? Let me know. But yeah, have a fantastic day, guys. I'll see you on the next one.